The city of Troy was shrouded in grief, its ancient stones echoing with the cries of a people in mourning. Hector, their greatest hero and protector, had fallen to Achilles, leaving behind a legacy of bravery and heartbreak. The Trojans, weary from 10 relentless years of siege, felt hopeless, their strength sapped by endless conflict and loss. King Priam mourned his beloved son, unsure how to save his people from the shadow of defeat that loomed ever closer. The Greek army taunted the city, growing bolder and more ruthless with each passing day, their jeers echoing through the battered streets. Without Hector, the Trojans' courage faded, and the once proud defenders now struggled to find hope. The gods watched from Olympus, divided in their loyalties, their immortal eyes fixed on the suffering below. Priam prayed for a miracle, not knowing that fate was already shifting, and that help was already on its way to Troy. The people clung to memories of Hector, but memories could not defend the walls or shield them from the enemy's advance. The city's spirit seemed broken, hope nearly extinguished, as darkness settled over Troy's empty streets. Yet as the sun set, and shadows lengthened, a group of riders appeared on the horizon, their arrival stirring whispers among the watchful guards. They were not Greeks, but something new, something unexpected, their presence both mysterious and awe-inspiring. The Trojans watched, curiosity flickering in their eyes, daring to wonder if these strangers might bring change. These strangers brought with them a spark of hope, a glimmer that pierced the gloom of despair. The city held its breath, waiting to see if this hope would grow into something greater, or fade away like so many dreams before. In the darkness of despair, even a small light can change everything, igniting courage where there was only fear. The fate of Troy was about to shift as dawn approached and the city braced for what was to come. The people gathered, whispering of omens and heroes, their voices weaving new stories of hope and possibility. The arrival of these riders would mark the beginning of a new chapter, a turning point in Troy's long and bitter struggle. For the first time in many days, Troy dared to hope, and the city's heart beat once more with anticipation for the future. Far away, in a land shrouded by legend and mist, a story of courage and sorrow was about to unfold. Queen Panthesilee of the Amazons heard of Troy's suffering, the city besieged and desperate for aid. Haunted by the accidental death of her beloved sister, she was tormented by guilt and sought redemption for her tragic mistake. Artemis, the fierce goddess of the hunt, was angered by Panthesilee's error, and the queen felt the weight of divine disfavor. Panthesilee believed that only a heroic act in the chaos of war could earn her forgiveness and restore her honor. Hearing of Troy's plight, she saw her chance to prove herself and perhaps find peace. She would fight for Troy, hoping that by saving others, she might heal her own wounded soul. Gathering her 12 fiercest warriors, each renowned for their bravery, she prepared for the perilous journey ahead. The Amazons readied their weapons and horses, loyal to their queen's cause and inspired by her determination. For her warriors, it was a quest for glory and honor. For Panthesilee, it was a journey of atonement and hope. She led them across mountains and plains, her mind fixed on redemption, her heart heavy with memories. Each mile brought her closer to the city, and to her fate, the weight of destiny growing with every step. She promised herself to fight with all her strength, to never falter no matter the cost. The Amazons rode as one, a force of nature, their unity and courage echoing through the valleys. Panthesilee's heart ached for forgiveness, but she pressed on, driven by hope and the promise of a new beginning. She would become a hero for Troy, or die trying, her fate entwined with the city's own. The queen's mission was clear, to save Troy, and in doing so, to save herself from her own sorrow. The journey was long and arduous, but hope and determination drove them forward, mile after mile. The Amazons approached Troy, ready to change the course of the war and carve their names into legend. A queen's sorrow was about to become a city's salvation, as destiny awaited at Troy's gates. The Trojans watched as the Amazons rode into view. At first, fear gripped them, but awe soon replaced it. Panthesilee, tall and proud, led her warriors through the gates. King Priam, weary with grief, greeted the Amazon queen. Panthesilee declared, "We have come to help you fight the Greeks." Priam welcomed them, hope rekindled in his eyes. That night, Troy celebrated for the first time in years. The Amazons dazzled the Trojans with their skill and courage. Their armor gleamed, their presence inspired. Panthesilee promised to lead the attack herself. "Tomorrow I will face Achilles," she vowed. The Trojans cheered, believing in her strength. The city felt alive again, hope surging through its streets. The Amazons were more than warriors, they were symbols of renewal. Panthesilee stood ready to fulfill her promise. The Trojans prepared for battle, their spirits lifted. The queen's confidence was contagious. With new allies, Troy dared to dream of victory. The night was filled with anticipation. Dawn would bring a battle that would decide their fate. At sunrise, Troy's gates opened, casting a golden hue over the ancient city. Panthesilee, the fierce Amazon queen, led her warriors and the Trojans onto the battlefield with unwavering determination. The Greeks, seeing women at the front, scoffed and mocked, until the Amazons charged with ferocity. Panthesilee's spear struck true, her warriors a whirlwind of fury, cutting through the enemy lines. The Greeks faltered, their confidence shattered by the unexpected might of the Amazons. The Amazons rode through enemy lines, axes and arrows flying with deadly precision. The Trojans, inspired by the Amazons' bravery, fought with renewed strength and vigor. The Greeks, once mocking, now retreated in panic, unable to withstand the onslaught. Panthesilee was unstoppable, her need for redemption and glory fueling her every move. The battlefield belonged to the Amazons and their allies, their dominance clear. For a moment, it seemed Troy might win, the hope of victory shining in their eyes. The Greeks fled, chased relentlessly by the fierce women warriors. The world saw the power and bravery of the Amazons, their legend growing with each victory. The Trojans believed victory was within reach, their spirits lifted by the Amazons' prowess. But the Greeks would not give up so easily, regrouping for a counterattack. The battle raged on, the outcome uncertain as both sides fought fiercely. Panthesilee's legend grew with every enemy she felled, her name becoming synonymous with bravery. The Greeks, terrified and desperate, called for their own heroes to turn the tide. The tide of war was turning, but the final test was yet to come, with both sides preparing for the ultimate clash. The Amazons had given Troy hope, but the greatest challenge lay ahead, testing their resolve and strength. The stage was set for a clash of legends, a battle that would be remembered for ages. The Greek camp was in chaos. The Amazons' assault had driven them back, but the sounds of defeat reached Achilles and Ajax. Achilles, mourning Patroclus, could not ignore the call to battle. He donned his divine armor, Ajax at his side. Their presence reignited Greek morale. The tide shifted as the two heroes entered the fray. Achilles' war cry struck fear into the Trojans and Amazons. The exhausted defenders now faced the Greeks' greatest champions. Achilles and Ajax cut through the enemy ranks. The battle became a desperate struggle for survival. The final confrontation was inevitable. Panthesilee saw Achilles on the battlefield. Her warriors faltered, but she pressed forward. This was her moment of destiny. She charged at Achilles, determined to face the greatest hero. The armies paused, watching the duel unfold. Panthesilee hurled her spears, but Achilles' divine armor held. She attacked with her axe, but Achilles was too swift. He struck with his spear, piercing her armor. Panthesilee fell, her strength fading. Silence swept the battlefield. Achilles approached, removing her helmet. Her beauty and bravery stunned him. He felt no triumph, only sorrow. The queen of the Amazons had fallen. Her quest for redemption ended. Achilles mourned the loss of a worthy foe. The army stood in awe of the tragedy before them. In that moment, the glory of war seemed hollow. Achilles realized he had destroyed something precious. The duel was over, but its impact would linger. Panthesilee's death marked a turning point in the war. Achilles' heart was heavy with regret. The battlefield was silent, mourning a fallen hero. Achilles stood over Panthesilee, grief overwhelming him. He felt no joy in victory, only loss. Her courage and beauty haunted him. He knelt beside her, touched by a sorrow he'd never known. Achilles saw himself in her, a warrior doomed by fate. The war's glory felt meaningless. The cheers of the Greeks faded, only silence remained. Achilles' rage was replaced by regret. He hated the hands that had ended her life. This was not triumph, but tragedy. He rose, determined to honor her in death. The Greeks watched, uncertain and uneasy. Achilles would not allow disrespect to her memory. He felt a fierce need to protect her, even now. The war had changed him. Panthesilee's death was a lesson in honor and loss. Achilles' heart ached with a new understanding. The greatest warrior now knew the true cost of war. Her memory would haunt him forever. As Achilles mourned, Thersites, a bitter Greek soldier, approached. He mocked Achilles for grieving over an enemy. Thersites insulted Panthesilee, ridiculing her as a woman in war. Then, in a final act of cruelty, he desecrated her body. The Greeks gasped in horror. Achilles' sorrow turned to blinding rage. Without hesitation, he struck Thersites down. The army fell silent. Achilles had killed one of his own, yet all understood the reason: to defend the honor of the dead. Achilles' act was both justice and a new burden. Killing a fellow Greek was a grave offense. Achilles' grief was now compounded by guilt. The war's brutality had claimed another victim. Achilles stood alone, his soul stained by violence. The Greeks looked on, fearful and silent. Achilles' need to honor Panthesilee had led to tragedy. The cost of war was measured in more than lives lost. Achilles would have to answer for his actions. Achilles ensured Panthesilee's body was treated with honor. He returned her to the Trojans for a hero's funeral. The Trojans mourned their champion, burning her on a grand pyre. Achilles, troubled by his actions, sought purification. He left the war briefly, making sacrifices to the gods. He prayed for forgiveness, for killing Thersites, and for the queen he could not save. The journey gave him time to reflect on war and loss. Panthesilee's death had changed him. He returned to battle, somber and thoughtful. The memory of the Amazon queen lingered in his heart. Her courage and tragedy became a lesson he would never forget. The war continued, but Achilles was no longer the same. The story of Panthesilee lived on in Troy and in the heart of her greatest foe. Even in death, she had changed the course of the war. Her legacy was one of honor, sorrow, and the hope that even enemies can be remembered with respect.